Welcome to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Load your quiver, camo up, and join us for another great episode of Outdoors Action. Hoffman's Hunting Heritage is brought to you by Advanced Takedown Tree Stands, Langia, Sunrise Archery, author W.C. Hoffman, and Tribe Grunt Calls. Here is your host, Bill Hoffman.
Hi, this is Dave Graham with Advanced Tree Stands.
This is Stephanie Brown with Langia.com.
This is Chef Derek Singerman with Backyard Bow Pro.
Jerry Widener with Hunter Safety System.
Crystal Mahoney with Whitetail Widowmaker.
Jake Hacker, the Everyday Outdoorsman.
Johnny B from Johnny B's Taxidermy.
Ken Frank from Michigan Waterfowlers.
Hey, this is Audrey from Scent Crusher.
Dr. Brian Hall, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Hoffman's Hunting Heritage.
Hello, and welcome back to another set of turkey success stories. This is part 2 on this week's show, and I've got 2 fantastic guests. The first of which I want to jump right into because she has hunted all over the world, all kinds of crazy things, and I want to hear what it's like for her to chase a species that I so dearly love, the turkey. I've got Steph Brown from Langia.com on the line. How's it going, my friend?
Hey, Bill. It's great. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Absolutely. I was thrilled to see when you posted pictures with a bird because I was like, ooh, there's part 2 right there.
Well, thank you. I feel honored.
For those of you who may remember, Steph is a part of Langia.com, who is one of my partners here on Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. That's LANDGEA.com. That's where we go to get one-of-a-kind items, personal handmade items, as well as a bunch of other items that sportsmen and women absolutely love. And, it's a different kind of marketplace, and that's why I'm so proud to be partnered with Langia. How's things going over there?
Things with Langia.com are going great. We are definitely, I think, making our mark and trying to make shopping great again online. So that's, kind of the spirit we're sticking with is the small business owners, the medium-sized manufacturers, and trying to, keep things here in the USA and keep shopping small and make it personal, and doing it all online has been, it's been a challenge, from the beginning. But we thrived and we grew so fast, and things are just kind of snowballing, and it's been amazing.
All right, I'm going to give you a little quiz. If my listeners wanted to find something that was, let's say, written by me, could they find it on Langia.com?
They absolutely could.
That's right. You can head right over to Langia.com and order signed copies of my books. They will be personalized right to you, and free shipping right to your door. Can't get any better than that. And, you're helping out a small-time guy like me, a writer guy, a guy that's got to, put food on the table and pay his gymnastics bill. Well, not my gymnastics bill, good Lord, my daughter's. The more books I sell, the more cool hunts I can go on to talk to my audiences about. And that's what we want to talk about today, a cool hunt. So, Stephanie, how'd you go about getting your dirty bird?
Well, this year I was a little distracted, I have to say, in the beginning of the season, and that's usually how it goes here in Ohio, because I'm also a morel hunter.
Oh.
I don't know if any of your listeners out there like to hunt mushrooms, but it's like one of my favorite things to do since I was a little kid.
Now, I hate to interrupt you, but speaking of morels, I've seen your pictures. No matter how successful you were in the turkey woods this year, you had a hell of a morel season. Tell us about that.
Well, let's just say I know my trees, and I know a lot about what I'm looking for specifically without just going into the woods aimlessly thinking, hey, this area looks good. I think there's going to be mushrooms here. No, I'm looking for specifics, and typically it makes me very successful. And I will say, this year was definitely one of those years where, I had a great yield. Probably a little over 1,000 morels from, grays to yellows. And that's a lot of what we find here in Ohio and southern Ohio and eastern Ohio where I mainly hunt. But it was a great season. Had found more than my share. I'll say that. I did end up sharing a lot of it though with friends and family, so it's nice to be able to do that too.
Well, that makes you very popular.
It actually does. This time of year, I mean, I'm getting calls and people want to come over that I haven't seen in a while.
That happens with me around tomato time because people know I'm a huge gardener. They know I plant way more tomatoes than, and than my family can use or even can. And so they're a little easier to find.
Yeah, a lot less backbreaking.
Yeah, that's true. But so you're out morel hunting, so that put turkey hunting on hold, or were you doing it at the same time?
Actually, so at the beginning of the season in Ohio, you're only allowed to hunt until noon. So, that's a long day of daylight that you have following noon, to really think about doing other things. And when you're out at the farm and we're out at our deer camp, and it's morel season, what else are you going to do? However, if you're in the woods and you're hunting turkeys early in the morning and you're tripping over morels, it's very distracting. And I have to, like I said, I have to admit, I get a little distracted when I start to see mushrooms everywhere. And so I'm like, well, I've got another month to turkey hunt. These mushrooms might only be here for, another week or 2 weeks. It just depends on the time of the year and how the season's been. So, yeah, in the early season, I was a little distracted by the mushrooms, and also sheds. I had a great shed season too. Found a couple match sets in the very beginning of turkey season. So I felt like there was a couple distractions.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, but I still, I still kept my eye on the prize and, just waited for the right turkeys. In early season, I saw a lot of jakes, a lot of hens. There just really wasn't any good, mature toms, that I was interested in going after. We do a lot of running and gunning. So, for the sake of, saving, my energy on, taking off after these younger birds, I just kind of waited it out and, really sat back a couple weeks, and in between, I had some time to really go out and scout and do those things to wait till the end of season. And the last 2 weeks is really where it all came together for me. I was able to take 2 mature birds this year and tag out in Ohio, which was awesome. But the second to last week is when I took my first bird, and then I actually took my final bird, filled my last tag on the last day in Ohio. So I really waited to the last minute, put a lot of pressure on myself.
It's crazy how often that happens. Hunting anything, that last hunt, when it's deer, it's the last day, the sun was going down, and we had 15 minutes left of camera light, and here comes your buck. Or turkey's the same way, and sometimes they read the script and they play along.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I don't know what it was this year, this spring. It's been really hot here in Ohio, so the birds have been super quiet, and we just, we had a couple weeks there where we weren't hearing them talk. I didn't see any strutters. I mean, it was definitely a chase this year for sure. I mean, there was a lot of running after birds and a lot of scouting to find them because they were so quiet. I mean, unless you roosted them and knew where they were at, I mean, you wouldn't have had a clue where to even start to look for them, except for get the binos out and, start looking in these valleys and the hillsides and hope you get lucky.
Right. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago in part 1 of this series, I had said perseverance, or what's the word I'm looking for? Perseverance. That's the word. It's not like I'm a writer or anything, but perseverance was the key to my hunt. Going out when most people would have been in. It was raining. It was nasty. It was not a good day to turkey hunt, and I had a great hunt. And when I had Jake Hacker on part 1, he had said that preseason scouting was the key. He knew where his bird was. He knew where it liked to go, and he basically, like I said, that bird read the script that day and he was able to kill it with his son in tow. For you, now let's break it down because you've got 2 birds. It might be the same thing, but on your first bird, what would you say the key to your success was?
The first bird, the key to my success was really knowing where the birds were, knowing kind of their routine, and finding out where they roost. And there's a great group of birds I've really had success with about every year. They're typically roosted in the same area that I know well. I'm very familiar with it, and again, I know the routine just from year after year, following these birds and keeping a close eye on the flock, and seeing what kind of mature birds there are, and knowing that there are several toms that are in this area. So if I stay routine to that area and continue to follow them and watch them and get to know their habits a little better, it helps, because it really changes from season to season. If you hunt fall birds, they definitely have a different routine than they do in the springtime. The birds like to mix it up a little. So
absolutely. And then with your second bird,
second bird actually was a similar area to the first bird that I hunted, and we had gotten out the last morning very early. We had roosted a group of toms, and we'd went out first thing in the morning, very early before daylight, and we got into a ground blind. And that morning was kind of crazy because unlike the rest of the season, these birds were talking their heads off at first light. So, we heard the fly downs, we heard them gobbling all over. I had toms gobbling behind me, to the side of me, in front of me. So honestly, at this point, I kind of got really lucky. I'm like, I had no idea where we were going to see one of these toms come from. I'm like, they could really come from any direction at this point. It wasn't necessarily the birds that I roosted, but I didn't realize that there were as many birds in the area that evening, because I had really only been watching that select group that I was really familiar with, just because I wanted to hone in and have the highest success rate. In the way I knew that to do was kind of stick with what was familiar.
Right.
But that morning, like I said, I kind of lucked out, and the birds we roosted actually were the ones that ended up coming out in front of us. And there were 2 of them, both shooters, both real mature birds, and they got about 58 yards in front of the blind, and I thought they were going to come straight to us. And something caught their eye out in the field, about 200 yards away. And it was another group of hens coming in from another hillside, and they kind of beelined for them. And I was wrecked emotionally at that point, because I was getting so hard on myself. And, as my hunting partner would say, I was kicking rocks, because I beat myself up sometimes over it, but I'm like, it's the last day. This is it. We've got to do it. If I don't fill this tag, I mean, it's going to be the end of the world. I've never shot a turkey before. I have no clue what's going on right now. Because it is, some people say it's just a turkey, but to me, it's like one of the most fun hunts there are. They're right. Just, they're kind of unpredictable. Even though, you can roost them in a tree, you never know what they're going to do. So we ended up ultimately having to make the decision to get out of the blind with a hen in front of us. And I knew that we were going to eventually get busted by this hen, but my hopes were that she was going to run to the woods that were in front of her, for safety, just to get out of our sight. And in fact, we got out into the field, and sure enough, she saw us and she ran to the woods. I mean, it was like I wrote it in a book. You know about that, but it was like I wrote it in a book, and she just ran straight to the woods. The toms and the other hens didn't even see her. She made no noise. And we had to actually take off running through this field, which was down low, and these birds were kind of up high and off to the left, just around this bend, just enough that they couldn't see us. And we got down into this creek bed, and from there we had to do about a 75-yard army crawl across this field. to get up close enough to these birds. And, luckily they kind of stayed their course, which is where we thought they were walking. And, we couldn't see them anymore once they'd turned that corner. So we were just hoping that we'd catch up to them. And sure enough, by the time we got to a place where we could kind of get the binos out again and get up and got them in range, they're really only about 40 yards away. So it just came together like I couldn't believe. I honestly, I thought it was over when they had walked off. I'm like, it was early morning still, but, this particular day, which was, Sunday, it was like going to be nothing but thunderstorms and rain for the rest of the day. We had a pocket of a couple hours, and we really had to take advantage of it and get it done, or it wasn't going to play out, because I'm not sitting in a field with lightning. So, as much as I love turkeys, I'm not going to risk my life over it. But, yeah, so once we got up on the birds, that was pretty much it. I saw them. I wasn't even going to hesitate. As soon as I had, a clear shot, I was able to kind of get in line and 40 yards. And, this bird was full strut, and I hit him where it counts and dropped him right there in his tracks. And I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. I thought, I talked to a lot of successful hunters, and they all say, well, like me, it was going out when I shouldn't have, or it was preseason scouting, or, it was I put my dues in. I'm a good caller. It must have been the new decoys. No one yet has said, oh, I just got lucky. I'm not that good. I just got lucky. And I thought you were going in that route, and you did get a little bit lucky, but luck is just when fortune favors the prepared, and you were prepared. You were out in the woods. And I think really with that second hunt, getting aggressive was the key. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And when you say calling, I was calling to this bird. Well, it was, like I said, it ended up being multiple birds because they were all gobbling. There was 3 or 4 toms in the woods that were gobbling that morning, and they would call, I would call, they would call back to me. And this went on until about 10 a.m. So from first light, and so this was a couple hours of us all just talking back and forth to each other. With no visuals of any of them at this point. We're sitting in a blind. One could have been down on the hillside behind us, but we still, we couldn't see them, and they weren't really coming to the calls. I think they were all pretty much henned up at that point, but, they eventually came out, and they did stay with the hens. So, and we weren't using a decoy. It's something I rarely use, especially on a run and gun. We just happened to have this blind that we'd set up because we planned on doing some filming, and we weren't sure about the weather. So, really just to protect equipment and whatnot. But, for running and gunning, it's just, you and your gun. You're not trying to take a bunch of stuff and run with decoys. And, if anything, I've taken a turkey fan with me. But that's about it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Up here in Michigan, we can't use them turkey fans. They're illegal.
Well, they probably should be illegal in a lot of places, and honestly, for safety, it is definitely a safety concern.
Yeah.
For many, and I've actually got a lot of flack on social media for pictures that I've posted with a turkey fan. People telling me, everything from I'm an idiot to I'm going to get shot and this, that, and the other, which I completely understand. Truthfully, I probably wouldn't have ever thought about that. If I didn't mainly hunt on private land. I rarely ever hunt on public land. I've never public land turkey hunted, to be quite honest, in my life. Even on my trips, to other places, it's been private property owned by others where, there's no other hunters. So, looking at those scenarios, though, I know things do happen. And I've heard horror stories from people, hunting in Pennsylvania that were hunting in a blind, and had, a decoy and whatnot. And someone shot their decoy right in front of them.
Yeah. Every year we hear those stories,
Yeah. So it's definitely a reality that, unfortunate things do happen. And, there are people that aren't as safe as others and, don't look at what they're shooting beyond or take shots that are unethical or, could cause harm to someone else beyond their target, which is unfortunate. And, you hate to hear that anytime, but, I do practice, just safe methods of hunting and, using a turkey fan. I wouldn't use it in any other place than where I hunt there. It is very safe. We've never caught anyone on our land hunting, where they're not supposed to be, which is probably the only scenario that would happen. And honestly, at our camp too, I'm one of the only people that turkey hunts. So it's usually, me, myself, and I, or I have a hunting partner. So,
and honestly, like you said, you had it with you. You didn't even need it. You had plenty of other skills and tactics to use, and patience and aggressiveness got you your bird. So, you mentioned social media real quick. If someone wants to reach out to you on social media or Langea, what's the best avenue?
They can find me on Facebook.com/Queen of the Tree Stand.
Pretty.
And same on Instagram. That's my handle on Instagram, is Queen of the Tree Stand.
That's right. Queen of the Tree Stand. And that is exactly what she is. And guys, I quizzed her a little bit earlier about my books being on Langea. But if the Queen of the Tree Stand is going to be in a tree stand, what kind of tree stand is it going to be?
Well, hands down, it would be my favorite stands. And those are the hang-on stands that are made by Advanced Takedown Tree Stands.
She's 2 for 2, guys. Langea.com and Advanced Takedown Tree Stands are partners here on Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Steph, congratulations on both your birds, on the sheds, and of course the morels. You've had a heck of a spring, and I look forward to talking to you after you get your big buck this year.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I can't wait. And the fall can't get here soon enough. It's actually, we're getting ready to go put out some minerals after we were done here tonight. So
amen. That's right. It's a nonstop. It's not a hobby. It's a lifestyle. Thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
When only 5 days is your season, you need every advantage you can get. The new Takedown from Advanced Tree Stands, a 3-piece modular design with its own integrated ratchet system, gets you up in a tree faster, safer than ever before. Takedown from Advanced.
Langea.com, your home for unique products that fit the outdoors lifestyle. Langea.com is the leading online social marketplace for all the needs of today's busy outdoorsmen and women. With a carefully curated list of unique products from all American companies and small businesses, Langea is truly uniting the outdoors. Next time you find yourself shopping for gear or gifts, make sure you start your search from the comfort of your tree stand, hunting blind, or bass boat with Langea.com.
Sunrise Archery and Outdoors, your source for all your archery needs. Bows, crossbows, and accessories from Elite, 10 Point, Mission, Matthews, Bowtech, Parker, and Prime. At Sunrise, you'll get the best customer service from a team of specialized professionals. You can even try it before you buy it and learn from the top archers. Come to the professionals for all your archery needs. Sunrise Archery and Outdoors, Torrey Road, Fenton.
Every once in a while, a design comes along that defies convention and challenges the way we think about performance. Missions are built from the ground up to embody the power and precision of an apex predator. Explore the unique features that make Mission easier to draw, maneuver, and shoot accurately.
There was a time when man could communicate with all animals. But we have since forgotten their language. Tribe Grunt Calls is a new company with an old heritage, providing affordable but high quality and great looking grunt calls to hunters like you. For more information on how you can join the tribe, visit tribegruntcalls.com.
Welcome back to segment 2 of this week's episode. Here is your host, Bill Hoffman.
Hey, this is Audrey from St. Crusher, and you're listening to Hoffman's Hunting Heritage.
All right, welcome back to segment 2 of this week's show, Turkey Success Stories, part 2 here in 2017. And actually now on the line, I've got one of my buddies, Elliot Hubbard. He's a Michigan boy, and he's actually, I think you were the first person I contacted after you smoked your bird about doing a turkey success story here, and you so gratefully said yes. Welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you.
So basically what we've been doing is just talking about, you know, each hunt, getting a little breakdown of the hunt and what the key to your success was. But first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you involved in the outdoors.
Was born and raised in the thumb of Michigan, and pretty much hunting and fishing my whole life. Started deer hunting with my dad when I was 3 years old, and it's just kind of grown from there. You know, having friends and family that hunt different species just kind of got me involved, and it grew into what it is today.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but turkey hunting is something that's a little bit newer to you, correct?
That is correct. As far as my family goes, that's the only thing that they really don't hunt is turkeys. I'm the only one who does hunt turkeys.
Yeah, it's just so funny. I was kind of in that boat until, well, heck, maybe 5 years ago. But now I'm hardcore. I'm all about it. Multiple states. It's just I love killing longbeards.
Deer hunting's always been my passion, but there's nothing like a tom gobbling, right in the morning just to fire you up. I mean, there's nothing I've experienced it like it.
It's so true, because like most people, I started out deer hunting and in small game hunting as well, but more so, when it comes to big game deer hunting. And, it's, you gotta be quiet. You gotta be scent free. You can't move. And, when I first started getting into goose hunting, it was a big change in culture for me, because it's cutting it up in the field with the boys and laughing and joking and donuts and coffee. And, turkey hunting is definitely not donuts and coffee, but, it's either on or it's not on, and I kind of like that aspect.
I'd agree. It definitely kills the time, and, especially if you have a partner, you can sit there and talk. You can kind of enjoy the hunt together and not have to worry about, is the wind blowing in the wrong direction? Is my blind, blended in well enough? That's one thing that's always humored me about a turkey, because, they have phenomenal eyesight, but you can stick a blind in the middle of the field and it doesn't even bother them.
Yeah, they got all that eyesight but no brain power behind it. We always say, how can something that stupid be so hard to kill sometimes? But
no doubt,
it's unreal. So tell me a little bit about your bird this year.
Oh, this opening morning, was something special. I hemmed and hawed if I wanted to take the bow out or not, or if I wanted to use the gun. Never shot a bird with the bow, and they do have a small kill zone when you're not going for the head. Ended up electing to take the bow out anyways, just for the challenge. Set up on a ground blind that we had in the middle of the blind was situated at the edge of a cornfield. I had pines on one side, maples on the other. The birds like to roost in the pines, probably 50, 60 yards off the cornfield. And I positioned myself to where I wasn't in the cut corn stubble, but I was close enough if I had birds come out into the corn stubble, they could see the decoys in the mowed down grass and hopefully get to pull them in. The morning started off with a bang. I had birds gobbling on all four sides of me. I think at one point we counted 6 gobbles at the same time, just doing light, clucks and purrs with the slate call.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when they come on the roost, the girls kind of kept them distracted for a while. But it was a beautiful morning. The sun started crusting up over the swamp, and I ended up having 5 jakes crest the hill, and it was something special because they were gobbling. You had the sun in the back, and all you could see was just the outline in the fog. It really got me fired up because at the time I couldn't see, what they were. I just knew, they were gobbling. Ended up working into the decoys and stayed there for about 5 minutes, and then they headed into the cornfield. Kind of slowed up a little bit, and I could see the jakes just working back and forth, and finally the hens come out of the roost, and but they were sticking with the corn. They really weren't interested in the grass field. So I just kind of kept at it with the calls, just real soft. Finally, I want to say it was like 8:30 in the morning. We called him the big bird, the boss Tom. And we've actually seen this bird for 3 years now. He's one of those turkeys that when he stands up on alert, his beard's still dragging on the ground. He's big and he's smart. I finally got a hen to commit into the decoys, and she came into the decoys, and I was kind of kicking myself because if I would have had the shotgun, I would have been able to shoot the big bird. But he just wouldn't commit into the decoys. He actually stayed strutting just inside the pines. I had a couple of Russian the autumn olives in the way, so I couldn't get an arrow to him. But he tucked in the woods and kept strutting as the hen stayed in with my decoys, and then she finally drifted back into the pines. And
yeah, he said, "You're coming to me, Mama."
Yeah, it's crazy because once she tucked in the woods, he was all about it. And then he ended up actually pushing her back into the cornfield. Well, when he pushed her in the cornfield, my Tom come running all the way across the cornfield. He seen the Tom strutting, and he come just running across the field. So once my Tom came across, the 5 jakes that I had coming earlier came about, and that boss Tom was just fighting them birds off of the hen, and they would come towards me within 50 yards of me, and then they'd go all the way back on the other side of the field, and then they'd come back and they'd go back on the other side of the field. And this went on for probably 2 hours.
Well, you got a heck of a show.
Oh, it was, watching the birds go at it and just hearing the vocal, the communication between them. But I'm going to tell you, it was working me because, I was trying to fire the hens up because I figured I couldn't pull the birds off the hen. So I figured if I could get her to commit back in, I might be good.
Right.
And I think 6 times they came in within 50 yards of me. And I kind of come to the feeling of like, maybe they're not seeing my decoys. Maybe they're hearing me, but they're not knowing exactly where I'm at, because I could see them, but there was a little ridge in between me and the birds. So I come out of the ground blind. I belly crawled all the way over to my decoys and put my 2 hen decoys on top of the ridge, but I left my jake where it was at. So if a Tom did crest, he'd see the jake and it'd pull him a little bit closer to me. Got the decoy set up, and I'm still using the mouth call, trying to keep them, aware of there's birds in the area. Got back in my ground blind, And sure enough, I hit a hard yelp, and my Tom seen the hen decoys and come on a run. And the jakes were right behind him, so I kind of got nervous thinking maybe the jakes would bully him out. And then all of a sudden he disappeared. I couldn't see him. And, I'm kind of just real quiet purring and little clucks and chirps here and there, and all of a sudden there he was at 8 yards away from me, crested over the ridge, all strutted out, fanned out. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Got the bow up, got the full draw, and he spotted me. He spotted me coming to full draw, and I'm like, what do I do? He's locked onto the blind. I just kind of real slowly bring the expedition back and get the excursion 6 at full draw, and he actually calmed down. Wow. And went back to strutting with the hen. And I locked the pin on him, and he just kept, how them toms will sit there and dance circles, and they put the wings down and do the happy shuffle dance that they do. And he finally turned forwarded at me, and then all of a sudden he got nervous again. So that's when I
let him
decided to and I put it right in between the beard and the neck and full pass through, and the bird walked 3 steps, and that's all it took.
Nice. And what did he? What was his details?
1 1/8 spurs, 10-inch beard, 25 pounds is what he weighed out at.
Nice 3-year-old then, probably.
Well, that's what I was figuring, but I mean, I kind of felt bad for my buddy Adam was hunting with me, and he was probably 300 yards away, and he knew right away I shot that bird. I was hooting and hollering so much. He's like, oh, I guess you shot a bird. I'm like, sorry about that. And he had birds in too. He's like, it didn't even bother him, but he's like, I was chuckling hearing you hooting and hollering.
Yeah, it sounds like you got some nice property there. Now, I know you do a lot of property development for whitetails. Do you guys do anything specific for turkeys, or is it just one of those things where if you build it, all the wildlife will come?
My main focus started as whitetails, but as the habitat has progressed, especially with the open pastures, the grassland, the early regen growth, the pheasants started coming back, and the turkeys were really responding well to it. So we kind of shifted to where it wasn't just solely focused on whitetails. We started planting things like sorghum and corn and a lot more clover and cereal grains for the birds, and the turkeys have really responded well to it. Actually, the last 3 years, 4 of the 5 birds that were taken off of our property were shot over staining grain fields that we planted in the fall for whitetails. It provides great bugging grounds for the turkeys. It's nice tender growth for them to eat, but it also is low enough it gives the toms a chance to strut without having any obstruction.
You can't beat that.
No. And then, the timber management that we're starting to do is really taking effect. We're kind of doing more of a timber stand improvement slowly as we go. So the undergrowth is nice and thick, so the birds have cover down low to kind of weave through, but then they're not trying to fly through a real thick canopy up top where they're roosting in the hardwoods and the maples. It's an open shot up to the trees. So it's actually helped us as far as, strategically planning where we want to set blinds up, because we know where they're roosting day in and day out. Before we did it, it was kind of a hit or miss where they were at, but now there's actually strategic points where we know day in, day out, these birds are roosting there.
Yep, and they're going to love that undergrowth for nesting, so it all just, just perfectly runs together like that. So I've been asking everybody, what was the key to your success? Now, for those of you that don't know Elliot or don't know me, seeing either one of us belly crawl into a field is comedy in itself. We're not exactly tiny guys, but other than a good aggressive belly crawl, what do you think was the key to your success?
Honestly, scouting, knowing where those birds are. It kind of plays hand in hand like whitetails. You got to know where your deer are bedding. You got to know where they travel to, or, in the directions where their food sources are. And that's what we keyed on. For the first 2 weeks or the last 2 weeks before season, we were out there with owl hoots, just confirming where we had seen birds in years past coming and going is where they were at. And that's where we set up on is, knowing where they're roosting and where they're going to food, or open ground. That's, toms want to be able to show off for the girls and be seen, and the girls want to fill their bellies. So that's kind of what we used.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And, a lot of the other people that I've had on the show talking about their success, it's boiled down to one of three things, I guess, would be perseverance, scouting, and a little bit of luck. So, you know what? I'll take all three, and that pretty much is going to guarantee me a long beard. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. I got to get you back on the show one of these days when I'm prepared for you and me to go head-to-head in the antler point restrictions debate. Elliot is a big proponent of a healthy deer herd and quality deer management. He puts his time where his mouth is in developing his land, and he is a go-to source for me when it comes to land development, whitetail nutrition, and you know what? He's pretty darn good on the 3D course too. So definitely got to get you back on the show, brother.
For sure.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's show. Turkey Success Stories 2017 Part 2. I don't know if there's going to be a Part 3. I don't have anyone lined up, but we'll be back next week. And like I always say, get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hoffman's Hunting Heritage. Get outdoors. It's a wild place to be.